What is going on here? All right, recording in progress. All right, everybody. So before we go forward here, last week somebody, and she didn't want to ask in front of everybody, and that's okay. But she had a good question, and she asked me during the week. And so a few times I've made the statements like the light bulb and the doorknob and the tree is all a bunch of crazy stuff, right? That's not higher power, not according to our literature. Doesn't qualify, right? And she asked me why then, like for her, she uses one of those things or something similar to that. And I said, use it for what? She said, long story short, I don't want to make it sound like those things should never be even talked about or discussed, because in the reference that she was talking about, she uses a light to kind of get into meditation. So if you're going to use the doorknob, or like you can meditate on anything, right? So if you're going to use something like that as a tool to get you to meditate, that's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. But don't mix that up with the source. That's not the source. It's just an object that you're using to get you there, kind of a road that you're taking. Does that make sense? And that's where she was stuck. So that's not the higher power. That's just the tool that allows her to meditate and get in touch with a higher power, which is fine. Nothing wrong with that. So in that sense, the light bulb is fine. All right. So today we're going to do a couple little different things. We're not going to get into the big book today. No, but we're going to talk about, because I want to talk about believing today, because that's really all the second step is about, right? Learning how to come into believe. And we have, for us, it's kind of difficult sometimes to believe in something that common sense tells you doesn't make sense, or believing in something that common sense says you maybe you shouldn't, right? And there's a lot of us in this room, and I've done this class for years and years and years, and I've had people with multiple years of sobriety that would not even be open to believing something unless they can see it. So we believe we use our emotion more than our intellect. Okay, and I put that up there. Don't limit your challenges, challenge your limits. I'm going to erase it now because I didn't use the board. But are you guys familiar with the concept of E over I? E over I. Anybody not familiar with that? All right. Okay, Melissa. Stop yelling answers out. E over I. Emotion over intellect. We're all born that way. Everybody's born that way. Okay. Just a little child is born with all emotion, no intellect. Okay. And as we progress in life, preteens and stuff, and when we start learning things, learning the alphabet and learning it should kind of get like, it starts going like that. Okay. And have you ever heard anybody say that once they started drinking or using, I stopped growing, right? So when I got sober, I came here, I was really like a 12-year-old, right? There's a lot of truth in that. Okay. So what happens is by the time you're an adult, you should be dealing with life like this. An equal balance of emotion and intellect. But we don't do that. People like us, addicts, alcoholics, people like us, we don't operate like that. We operate mostly still out of emotion. Okay, so this is where when they talk about, I'm 35 years old, but I just got sober. I'm like I'm a 13-year-old again, starting. This is because we're so stuck in our dealing with life emotionally that we're not nowhere near where we should be. Okay, so that's just the fact. There are even a couple of really sad situations where people are still like this way into their adult life, just totally run by emotion and no intellect at all. Or if they have an intellect, they don't choose to use it or apply it. So a lot of us are like this, or reversed like this, but very few of us come in here in recovery with an equal balance of emotion and intellect. And that's why it's hard for a lot of us to understand or believe in a concept of God. First of all, most of us had been playing God for many years, or didn't believe or turned our back on God or didn't want anything to do with God. And so we believe, more what our feelings tell us to believe rather than what our intellect may say. So there's a great argument between, people that don't believe in a God. They'll argue about the Big Bang Theory, which is really ridiculous if you think about it, because it's very intellectual, but it's very ridiculous, really. Because the Big Bang Theory is there was nothing, and nothing exploded and made everything. And nobody's ever been able to explain to me how nothing explodes. So nothing made everything. That's the Big Bang Theory. Nothing made everything. I still don't get that one, but I actually teach that in schools. It's dangerous. So what we're going to do is we're going to try to talk about believing today. For instance, if I give you a scenario that let's see how you people feel about this. If you've done this before, Melissa, do not answer the question.
My emotions got away with me.
You're forgiven. But for the rest of you guys, don't throw out the answer. It's not going to help anybody. We all know you're very intelligent. All right. So I'm going to take a scenario. Like I'm going to ask in a minute, I'm going to ask Susan to come up here and sit in this chair that I'm going to put over here. Then I'm going to call on 2 ladies and 2 men, and I'm going to ask them to come up here. And I'm going to tell you that I don't even know who I'm going to call on. I'm going to tell you that these 2 men and these 2 ladies could pick the chair and Susan right off of the ground using 2 fingers each. Just 2 fingers. They could lift the chair right off the ground with Susan sitting in it. Now, how many people believe that? None of you. John, you believe that?
I might.
Okay. Ginger might. Okay. Anything's possible. Okay. So we're talking about believing, right? We're talking about believing, and believing requires us to believe things that common sense say no. But here's the interesting thing. Well, we're going to do this first, and then I'm going to show you a very interesting thing. So I'm going to put this chair over here, and Susan, if you'd volunteer yourself, you change the camera, Jeff. Sit down, honey. Make yourself relax there. Put your feet on the floor. Now, since you're here, Jeff, you can help. And Ginger and Lindsay, come on up here and help. Now, how many people don't believe that 4 people could pick her up off the chair and everything, off the floor with just 2 fingers each? So you guys all believe that? You guys all believe that they can do it? I believe that you believe. That's we're going to talk about that, Vic. All right, I'll tell you what then. I want you and Vic and you 2 ladies that don't believe either, right?
Right.
To go in that little room over there. But you know, just go behind the wall over there, and we'll call you back when we're done. Sorry to make you get up and everything, but, okay. Go ahead back there. Let me see. I got 4 of us. Okay. So come here, guys. Here's what I want you to do. I want you to make a fist, all right? And then just open these 2 fingers. Then open your thumbs. And under here, we're gonna go 1, 2, and 3, 4. And you're gonna put your fingers in there where they're on the bottom of the chair and your thumbs are resting on the side. Okay?
And you're not gonna drop me.
No, you're not gonna go that high. Go on that side, Jeff. Come over here. Okay, so on 3, we'll pick it up. 1, 2, 3. Go behind her, Jeff. All right. Thank you. All right. You guys can come back. You guys were probably sneaking and listening, and I don't know if you heard Susan scream, but so what I'm going to say to you is, while you guys were gone, 4 of us used 2 fingers each, and we picked the chair and Susan off the ground. Now, those of you that didn't believe, do you believe now that we did it? No.
Watch the video later.
Do you believe we did it? No, not you.
There's possibility.
Possibility. Okay. Do you believe we did it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Did you do it?
Wait a minute. Everybody that was here, raise your hand if you saw us do it. Okay.
I believe Barry. Barry wouldn't lie to me.
So now, do you believe we did it? No? Do you believe we did it? It's more possible than it was a minute ago?
Possible, yeah.
Vic, you believe? Okay. So here's the interesting thing. 1 or 2 things happened here. We had a great conspiracy against you 4, and I told everybody to lie. And when you come back to lie and play along with me, and they did that. Or we really did lift Susan in the chair off the ground using 2 fingers each. 1 of the 2. Now, some of you were skeptical, but then when you saw everybody raise their hand that saw it, most of you were willing to, okay, better chance that maybe it did happen. Vic changed his mind, it did. You changed your mind. And you didn't see it happen, so you can't believe it. Okay? That's the interesting thing. That what do we have to do? If you didn't see that, and we're telling you we did it, and everybody raised their hand that we did it, how do you have a relationship with God that you can't see? How do you come in here, and how do you get in touch with the power greater than yourself that you can't see? You have to be open to believe that, and that's what the second step is about. It's about hope. Second step is the promise of hope, that I believe that something can happen. Okay, so it's a great lesson for how we're stuck on that part of our brain where if I don't see it, I can't believe it. I can't buy it because I didn't see it. Is it feasible to you that everybody lied to you just now?
You could have said.
No, no, you're absolutely right. I could have said that.
But I have to say, as far as God goes,
Okay.
I can't explain that.
Okay. So I'm going to say to you now that I didn't tell anybody to lie.
Okay.
And that's my truth to you. And I just asked them for the first time and they raised their hand. So now what do you think?
I believe it.
Okay. Okay. So I think about 3 or 4 years ago, when I first came back to Oklahoma, the first class I did again from when I moved back from Florida was, I had somebody with like 20-something years sober. And he would not believe we did it. He just would not, because he didn't see it. I find that amazing. I find that amazing that you're 20 years sober and you don't have enough of an open mind to believe in something that common sense says you can't do it. It's a little tricky. It wasn't a trick. It was honest. It was real. But 2 fingers. Okay. So anyway, that gives you a great idea of, and you're sober for a while, right? How long are you sober?
3 years.
3 years. Okay. So can you imagine, if you can't remember how you were when you got here, can you imagine the newcomer that you're working with? How skeptical they are? Because you could have people in here with a lot more than 3 years that didn't believe it. Got to see it to believe it. So we see signs of God working in our lives if we're open to it. But when we first get here, we don't. And you know, we think that some of us have no concept of God at all. And some of us have, you know, there was a God, but it had nothing to do with me. That's kind of like where I was at, you know. So I forgot your name.
Ivy.
Ivy, that's right. Ivy, we just did something interesting.
Okay, I missed it.
We took this chair and we put it over here. And Susan's came and sat in the chair. And I had 4 people, 2 men and 2 women, pick Susan and the chair up off the ground using only 2 fingers each. You believe we did that? Okay, good for you.
Maybe I'll do it or not?
Yeah, we did it.
Okay.
Yeah, we did it. But we almost dropped her a little bit, but we did it. Yeah, she was tilted a little. She panicked a little bit. But yeah, we did it. It's possible. But common sense says it's not. All right. Well, how many things have happened in your life that God has done for you in your life that common sense said never should have happened?
I'm sober.
You're sober, yeah. That's a good point. That's a great point. So last week we talked about, we drew the circle that encompassed all the knowledge in the universe and how much knowledge we had. And, you know, the question I asked was, isn't it possible that in all the knowledge that you don't know, God could exist in that, right? You have to say yes to that. If this is what you know, and this is what you don't know, it's got to be the opportunity has to exist and could be there, right? So there's 4 obstacles that block us from God. I want you to write these down. And we're going to cover these in the later steps, but this is good information for you to write down. 4 obstacles that block us from God. Number 1, not in any particular order, but number 1, someone I will not forgive. Someone I will not forgive. Number 2, a restitution I will not make. A restitution I will not make. Number 3, a secret I will not confess. A secret I will not confess. And number 4, I hate this one. A dubious pleasure I will not forego. Some of you are shaking right now. A dubious pleasure I will not forego. Those are 4 obstacles that always block us from God. And because we've running mostly on emotion when we get here, it's very difficult to appreciate the real things in life or the important things in life, because we have, like, your home, right? Your home is what? It's a building with a roof and a floor and 4 walls, right? And then we fill it up with things, right? We put, you know, that nice couch and chairs and beautiful table and this and a big TV on the wall. You know, we put all this stuff in this four walls and the roof and the ceiling and just fill it with stuff, right? And that's what we focus on, and that's what we pay attention to. But life happens in the empty space between the four walls and the roof and the floor. That's where life takes place. We don't pay attention to that. That's where you have a loving relationship with the people in your family and your friends. And you learn and you teach and you enjoy. That's in the empty space, not in the big TV and in the couch and all that. In the empty space between the walls is where life really goes on. And when we get sober and we find out that we don't have a God in our life as a stable for us, that's what we're doing. We're replacing the idea of a God with the 72-inch TV and the leather recliner that goes all the way back, right? Things, tangibles. Yet it's the untangible where life takes place. And that's the important stuff, really, where life takes place. So it's difficult to believe in things that common sense says you can't. But you have to be at least open-minded too. So now I'm going to do something that might be a little boring to you, but I want to introduce you to a higher power. Okay? So I'm going to read to you for a little while. So I want you to put all your books away and put your feet on the floor, and I want you to relax. And what I'm going to read to you is called the God Memorandum. Okay? And it's out of a very small little book, 100-page book by God Mandino called The Greatest Miracle in the World. It's a great book. And there's one chapter in there that's called the God Memorandum. And I'm going to read you that chapter. So it's a little bit long, but bear with me. And what that chapter is, it's God was trying to figure out a way to communicate with us. And he figured he'd choose somebody to pass a memorandum on to the rest of us. And so this memorandum is from God. If you didn't know, God's from the Bronx. You know now. So just relax, and I want you to hear the message, okay? This is from God to you. Take counsel. I hear your cry. It passes through the darkness, filters through the clouds, mingles with starlight, and finds its way to my heart on the path of a sunbeam. I have anguished over the cry of a hare choked in the noose of a snare, a sparrow tumbled from the nest of its mother, a child thrashing helplessly in the pond, and a son shedding his blood on a cross. Know that I hear you also. Be at peace. Be calm. I bring thee relief for your sorrow, for I know its cause and its cure. You weep for all your childhood dreams that have vanished with years. You weep for all your self-esteem that has been corrupted by failure. You weep for all your potential that has been bartered for security. You weep for all your talent that has been wasted through misuse. You look upon yourself with disgrace and you turn in terror from the image you see in the pool. Who is this mockery of humanity staring back at you with bloodless eyes of shame? Where is the grace of your manner, the beauty of your figure, the quickness of your movement, the clarity of your mind, the brilliance of your tongue? Who stole your goods? Is the thief's identity known to you as it is to me? Once you placed your head in a pillow of grass in your father's field and looked up upon a cathedral of clouds and knew that all the gold of Babylon would be yours in time. Once you read from many books and wrote on many tablets, convinced beyond any doubt that all the wisdom of Solomon would be equaled and surpassed by you. And the seasons would flow into years until lo, you would reign supreme in your own Garden of Eden. Dost thou remember who implanted those plans and dreams and seeds of hope with you? You cannot. You have no memory of that moment when first you emerged from your mother's womb and I placed my hand on your soft brow and I whispered a secret in your small ear when I bestowed my blessings upon you. Remember our secret? You cannot. The passing years have destroyed your recollection, for they have filled your mind with fear and doubt and anxiety and remorse and hate, and there is no room for joyful memories where these beasts habitat. Weep no more. I am with you, And this moment is the dividing line of your life. All that has gone before you is like unto no more than that time you slept within your mother's womb. What is past is dead. Let the dead bury the dead. This day you return from the living dead. This day, like unto Elijah with the widow's son, I stretch myself upon thee 3 times and you live again. This day, like unto Elijah with the son of my son, I put my mouth upon your mouth, my eyes upon your eyes, and my hands upon your hands, and your flesh is warm again. This day, like unto Jesus at the tomb of Lazarus, I command you to come forth and walk from your cave of doom to begin a new life. This is your birthday. This is your new date of birth. Your first life, like unto a play of the theater, was only a rehearsal. This time the curtain is up. This time the world watches and waits to applaud. This time you will not fail. Light your candles, share your cake. You have been reborn. Like a butterfly from its chrysalis, you will fly as high as you wish, and neither the wasp nor the dragonflies nor the manatees of mankind shall obstruct your mission or your search for the true riches of life. Feel my hand upon thy head. Attend to my wisdom. Let me share with you again the secret you heard at your birth and forgot. You are my greatest miracle. You are the greatest miracle in the world. Those were the first words you ever heard. Then you cried. They all cry. You did not believe me then, and nothing has happened in the intervening years to correct your disbelief. For how could you be a miracle when you consider yourself a failure at the most menial of tasks? How can you be a miracle when you have little confidence in dealing with the most trivial responsibilities? How can you be a miracle when you are shackled by debt and lie awake in torment over whence will come tomorrow's bread? Enough. The milk that is spilled is sour. Yet how many prophets, how many wise men, how many poets, how many artists, how many composers, how many scientists, how many philosophers and messengers have I sent with word of your divinity and your potential for godliness and the secrets of achievement? How did you treat them? Still, I love you, and I am with you now through these words to fulfill the prophet who has announced that the Lord shall set his hand again the second time to recover the remnant of his people. I have set my hand again. This is the second time. You are my remnant. It is of no avail to ask, haven't you known? Haven't you heard? Hasn't it been told to you from the beginning? Haven't you understood from the foundations of earth? You have not known, you have not heard, you have not understood. You have not been told that you are a divinity in disguise, a God playing a fool. You have been told that you are a special piece of work, noble in reason, infinite in faculties, expressed and admirable in form and moving, like an angel in action, like a God in apprehension. You have been told that you are the salt of the earth. You were given the secret even of moving mountains, of performing the impossible. You believed no one. You burned your map to happiness. You abandoned your claim to peace of mind. You snuffed out the candles that had been placed along your destined path of glory. And then you stumbled, lost and frightened in the darkness of fertility and self-pity until you fell into a hell of your own creation. Then you cried and beat your breast and cursed the luck that had befallen you. You refused to accept the consequences of your own petty thoughts and lazy deeds, and you searched for a scapegoat on which to blame your failure. How quickly you found one. You blamed me. You cried that your handicaps, your mediocrity, your lack of opportunity, your failures were the will of God. You were wrong. Let us take inventory. Let us first call a roll of your handicaps. For how can I ask you to build a new life, least you have the tools? Are you blind? Does the sun rise and fall without your witness? No, you can see. And the 100 million receptors I have placed in your eyes enable you to enjoy the magic of a leaf, a snowflake, a pond, an eagle, a child, a cloud, a star, a rose, a rainbow, and the look of love. Count one blessing. Are you deaf? Can a baby laugh or cry without your attention? No, you can hear. And the 24,000 fibers I have built in each of your ears vibrate to the wind in the trees, the tides on the rocks, the majesty of an opera, a robin's plea, children at play, and the words, I love you. Count another blessing. Are you mute? Do your lips move and bring forth only spittle? No, you can speak, as can no other of my creatures. And your words can calm the angry, uplift the despondent, goad the quitter, cheer the unhappy, warm the lonely, praise the worthy, encourage the defeated, teach the ignorant, and say, I love you. Count another blessing. Are you paralyzed? Does your helpless form despoil the land? No. You can move. You are not a tree condemned to a small plot while the wind and the world abuses you. You can stretch and run and dance and work, for within you, I have designed 500 muscles, 200 bones, and 7 miles of nerve fiber, all synchronized by me to do your bidding. Count another blessing. Are you unloved and unloving? Does loneliness engulf you night and day? No, no more. But now you know love's secret, that to receive love, it must be given with no thought of its return. To love for fulfillment, satisfaction, or pride is no love. Love is a gift on which no return is demanded. Now you know that to love unselfishly is its own reward. And even should love not be returned, it is not lost. For love not reciprocated will flow back to you and soften and purify your heart. Count another blessing. Count twice. Is your heart stricken? Does it leak and strain to maintain your life? No, your heart is strong. Touch your chest and feel its rhythm, pulsating hour after hour, day and night. 36 million beats each year, year after year, asleep or awake, pumping your blood through more than 60,000 miles of veins, arteries, and tubing, pumping more than 600,000 gallons each year. Man has never created such a machine. Count another blessing. Are you diseased of skin? Do people turn in horror when you approach? No. Your skin is clear and a marvel of creation, needing only that you tend it with soap and oil and brush and care. In time, all steels will tarnish and rust, but not your skin. Eventually, the strongest of metals will wear with use, but not that layer that I have constructed around you. Constantly, it renews itself. Old cells replaced by new, just as the old you is now replaced by the new. Count another blessing. Are your lungs befouled? Does your breath of life struggle to enter your body? No. Your portholes to life support you, even in the vilest of environments of your own making. And they labor always to filter life-giving oxygen through 600 million pockets of folded flesh while they rid your body of gaseous waste. Count another blessing. Is your blood poisoned? Is it diluted with water and pus? No. Within your 5 quarts of blood are 22 trillion blood cells. And within each cell are millions of molecules. And within each molecule is an atom oscillating at more than 10 million times each second. Each second, 2 million of your blood cells die to be replaced by 2 million more in a resurrection that has continued since your first birth. As it has always been inside, so now it is on your outside. Count another blessing. Are you feeble of mind? Can you no longer think for yourself? No. Your brain is the most complex structure in the universe. I know. Within its 3 pounds are 13 billion nerve cells, more than 3 times as many cells as there are people on your earth. To help you file away every perception, every sound, every taste, every smell, every action you have experienced since the day of your birth. I have implanted within your cells more than 1,000 billion protein molecules. Every incident in your life is there waiting only your recall. And to assist your brain in the control of your body, I have dispersed throughout your form 4 million pain-sensitive structures, 500,000 touch dictators, and more than 200,000 temperature dictators. No nation's gold is better protected than you. None of your ancient wonders are greater than you. You are my finest creation. Within you is enough atomic energy to destroy any of the world's great cities and rebuild it. Are you poor? Is there no gold or silver in your purse? No, you are rich. Together we have just counted your wealth. Study the list, count them again, tally your assets. Why have you betrayed yourself? Why have you cried that all the blessings of humanity were removed from you? Why did you deceive yourself that you were powerless to change your life and are without talent? Are you without talent, senses, abilities, pleasures, instincts, sensations, and pride? Are you without hope? Why do you cringe in the shadows, a giant defeated, awaiting only sympathetic transport into the welcome void and dampness of hell? You have so much. Your blessings overflow your cup, and you have been unmindful of them, like a child spoiled in luxury. since I have bestowed them upon you with generosity and regularity. Answer me. Answer yourself. What rich man, old and sick, feeble and helpless, would not exchange all the gold in his vault for the blessings you have treated so lightly? Know then the first secret to happiness and success that you possess even now, every blessing necessary to achieve great glory. They are your treasure, your tools to build, starting today, the foundation of a new and better life. Therefore, I say unto you, count your blessings and know that you already are my greatest creation. This is the first law you must obey in order to perform the greatest miracle in the world, the return of your humanity from living death. And be grateful for your lessons learned in poverty, for he is not poor who has little, only he that desires much. And true security lies not in the things one has, but in the things one can do without. Where are the handicaps that produced your failure? They existed only in your mind. Count your blessings. And the second law is like unto the first. Proclaim your rarity. You had condemned yourself to a potter's field, and there you lay, unable to forgive your own failure, destroying yourself with self-hate, self-incrimination, and revulsion at your crimes against yourself and others. Are you not perplexed? Do you not wonder why I am able to forgive your failures, your transgressions, your pitiful demeanor, when you cannot forgive yourself? I address you now for 3 reasons. You need me. You are not one of a herd heading for destruction in a gray mass of mediocrity, and you are a great rarity. Consider a painting by Rembrandt, or a bronze by Degas, or a violin by Stradivarius, or a play by Shakespeare. They have great value for 2 reasons. Their creators were masters, and they are few in number. Yet there are more than one of each of these. On that reasoning, you are the most valuable treasure on the face of earth, for you know who created you, and there is only one of you. Never in all the 70 billion humans who have walked this planet since the beginning of time has there been anyone exactly like you. Never until the end of time will there be another such as you. You have shown no knowledge or appreciation for your uniqueness. Yet you are the rarest thing in the world. From your father, in his moment of supreme love, flowed countless seeds of love, more than 400 million in number. All of them, as they swam within your mother, gave up the ghost and died. All except one, you. You alone persevered within your the loving warmth of your mother's body, searching for your other half, a single cell from your mother so small that more than 2 million would be necessary to fill an acorn shell. Yet, despite impossible odds, in that vast ocean of darkness and disaster, you persevered, found that cell, joined with it, and began a new life, your life. You arrived bringing with you, as every child does, the message that I was not yet discouraged of man. 2 cells now united in a miracle. 2 cells, each containing 23 chromosomes, and within each chromosome, hundreds of genes, which would govern every characteristic about you, from the color of your eyes to the charm of your manner to the size of your brain. With all the combinations at my command, beginning with that single sperm from your father's 400 million, to the hundreds of genes in each of the chromosomes from your mother and father, I could have created 300,000 billion humans, each different from the other. But who did I bring forth? You, one of a kind, rarest of the rare, priceless treasure, possessed of qualities in mind and speech and movement and appearance and actions as no other who has ever lived, lives, or shall live. Why have you valued yourself in pennies when you are worth a king's ransom? Why did you listen to those who demeaned you, and far worse, why did you believe them? Take counsel. No longer hide your rarity in the dark. Bring it forth. Show the world. Strive not to walk as your brother walks, nor talk as your leader talks, nor labor as do the mediocre. Never do as another. Never imitate. For how do you know that you may not imitate evil? And he who imitates evil always goes beyond the example set, while he who imitates what is good always falls short. Imitate no one. Be yourself. Show your rarity to the world, and they will shower you with gold. This then is the second law. Proclaim your rarity. And now you have received 2 laws. Count your blessings, proclaim your rarity. You have no handicaps. You're not mediocre. You nod. You force a smile. You admit your self-deception. What now of your next complaint? Opportunity never seeks thee? Take counsel and it shall come to pass, for now I give you the law of success in every venture. Many centuries ago, this law was given to your forefathers upon a mountaintop. Some heeded the law, and lo, their life was filled with the fruit of happiness, accomplishment, gold, and peace of mind. Most listened not, for they sought magic means, devious routes, or waited for the devil called luck to deliver them to the riches of life. They waited in vain, just as you waited, and then they wept, blaming their lack of fortune on me. The law was simple. Young or old, pauper or king, white or black, male or female, all can use the secret to their advantage. For of all the rules and speeches and scriptures of success and how to attain it, only one method has never failed. Whosoever shall compel ye to go with him 1 mile, go with him 2. This then is the third law, the secret that will produce riches and acclaim beyond your dreams. Go another mile. The only certain means of success is to render more and better service than is expected of you, no matter what your task may be. This is a habit followed by all successful people since the beginning of time. Therefore, I say the surest way to doom yourself to mediocrity is to perform only the work for which you are paid. Think not you're being cheated if you deliver more than the silver you receive. For there is a pendulum to all life, and the sweat you deliver now, if not rewarded today, will swing back tomorrow tenfold. The mediocre never goes another mile, for why should he cheat himself, he thinks. But you are not mediocre. To go another mile is a privilege you must appropriate by your own initiative. You cannot, you must not avoid it. Neglect it, do only as little as the others, and the responsibility for failure is all yours. You can no more render service without receiving just compensation than you can withholding the rendering of it without suffering the loss of reward. Cause and effect, means and ends, seed and fruit, these cannot be separated. The effect already blooms in the cause, the end pre-exists in the means, and the fruit is always in the seed. Go another mile. Concern yourself not should you serve an ungrateful master. Serve him more. And instead of him, let it be me who is in your debt. For then you will know that every minute, every stroke of extra service will be repaid. And worry not should your reward not come soon. For longer payment is withheld, the better for you. And compound interest on compound interest is this law's greatest benefit. You cannot command success, you can only deserve it. And now you know the great secret necessary in order to merit its rare reward. Go another mile. Where is the field whence you cried there was no opportunity? Look around you. See where only yesterday you wallowed on the refuse of self-pity, you now walk on a carpet of gold. Nothing has changed except you, but you are everything. You are my greatest miracle. You are the greatest miracle in the world. And now the laws in happiness and success are 3. Count your blessings, proclaim your rarity, go another mile. Be patient with your progress, to count your blessings with gratitude, to proclaim your rarity with pride, to go an extra mile and then another. These acts are not accomplished in the blinking of an eye. Yet that which you acquire with most difficulty retain the longest, as those who have earned the fortune are more careful of it than those by whom it was inherited. And fear not as you enter your new life. Every noble acquisition is attended with its risk. He who fears to encounter the one must not expect to obtain the other. Now you know you are a miracle, and there is no fear in a miracle. Be proud. You are not the momentary whim of a careless creator experimenting in the laboratory of life. You are not a slave of forces that you cannot comprehend. You are a free manifestation of no force but mine, of no love but mine. You were made with the purpose. Feel my hand, hear my words. You need me, and I need you. We have a world to rebuild, and if it requireth a miracle, what is that to us? We are both miracles, and now we have each other. Never have I lost faith in you since the day I first spun you from a giant wave and tossed you helplessly on the sands. As you measure time, that was more than 500 million years ago. There were many models, many shapes, many sizes before I reached perfection in you more than 30,000 years ago. I have made no further effort to improve on you in all these years. For how could one improve on a miracle? You were a marvel to behold, and I was pleased. I gave you this world and dominion over it. Then, to enable you to reach your full potential, I placed my hand upon you once more and endowed you with powers unknown to any other creature in the universe, even unto this day. I gave you the power to think. I gave you the power to love. I gave you the power to will. I gave you the power to laugh. I gave you the power to imagine. I gave you the power to create. I gave you the power to plan. I gave you the power to speak. I gave you the power to pray. Gave you the power to heal. My pride in you knew no bounds. You were my ultimate creation, my greatest miracle, a complete living being, one who can adjust to any climate, any hardship, any challenge, one who can manage his own destiny without any interference from me, one who can translate a sensation or perception by instinct, not by instinct, but by thought or deliberation into whatever action is best for himself and all humanity. Thus we come to the fourth law of success and happiness. For I gave you one more power, a power so great that not even my angels possess it. I gave you the power to choose. With this gift, I place you even above my angels, for angels are not free to choose sin. I gave you complete control over your destiny, and I told you to determine for yourself your own nature in accordance with your own free will. Neither heavenly nor earthly in nature, you were free to fashion yourself in whatever form you preferred. You had the power to choose to degenerate into the lowest forms of life, but you also had the power out of your soul's judgment to be reborn to the higher forms, which are divine. I have never withdrawn your great power, the power to choose. What have you done with this tremendous force? Look at yourself. Think of the choices you have made in your life and recall now those bitter moments when you would fall to your knees if you only had the opportunity to choose again. What is past is past. And now that you know the fourth great law of happiness and success, use wisely the power of choice. Choose to love rather than hate. Choose to laugh rather than cry. Choose to create rather than destroy. Choose to persevere rather than quit. Choose to praise rather than gossip. Choose to heal rather than wound. Choose to give rather than steal. Choose to act rather than procrastinate. Choose to grow rather than rot. Choose to pray rather than curse. Choose to live rather than die. Now you know that your misfortunes were not my will, for all power was vested in you, and the accumulation of deeds and thoughts which placed you on the refuse of humanity were your doing, not mine. My gifts of power were too large for your small nature. Now you have grown tall and wise, and the fruits of the land will be yours. You are more than a human being. You are a human becoming. You are capable of great wonders. Your potential is unlimited. Who else among my creatures have mastered fire? Who else among my creatures have conquered gravity, has pierced the heavens, has conquered disease and pestilence and drought? Never demean yourself again. Never settle for the crumbs of life. Never hide your talents from this day hence. Remember the child who says, when I am a big boy, but what is that? For the big boy says, when I grow up. And then the grown-up says, when I am wed. But what is that to be wed after all? The thought then changes to when I retire. And then retirement comes and he looks back over the all and somehow he's missed it and it's all gone. Enjoy this day today and tomorrow. You have performed the greatest miracle in the world. You have returned from a living death. You will feel self-pity no more, and each new day will be a challenge and a joy. You have been born again, but it's just as before. You can choose failure and despair or success and happiness. The choice is yours. The choice is exclusively yours. I can only watch as before in pride or sorrow. Remember then the four laws of happiness and success. Count your blessings. Proclaim your rarity. Go another mile. Use wisely your power of choice. And one more to fulfill the other four. Do all things with love. Love for yourself, love for all others, and love for me. Wipe away your tears. Reach out and grasp my hand and stand straight. Let me cut the grave cords that have bound you. This day you have been notified. You are the greatest miracle in the world.
So different every time.
So it's called, the name of the book is called The Greatest Miracle in the World by Og Mandino.
The greatest what?
Miracle in the World. It's only about 100 pages. And this is towards the back of the book, this is a chapter. It's entitled The God Memorandum. But the whole book is worth reading. It's a quick little read. But this here, so that was a message from God. So what we talked about today was learning how to believe when it's difficult for us to believe, right? That's what we started off with. Giving examples of how we don't want to believe, how we're stubborn and we're stuck in our old emotional ways rather than our intellect. And now I've given you a message from God that is very powerful. And it's a very powerful message. So a lot of you guys have heard it many times.
What's the name again?
The name of the book is The Greatest Miracle in the World. And the author is Og, O-G, Mandino. M-A-N-D-I-N-O, I think. Og Mandino.
And you can find the book on Amazon. It's like
You can find it, yeah, mostly everywhere.
Yeah.
Mandino, The Greatest Miracle in the World. And it's really a good book. It's only 100 pages. You could, but this was a hell of a message. Who was the first time that they've heard this? Raise your hand. Was the first time? Okay. What'd you think?
Very, very powerful. It just goes to show how much God loves us, man. There's that much about us.
First time I read this, I thought, I didn't know I had all that stuff in me.
I read that years ago.
Uh-huh.
It's funny when you were talking, the one thing that always stuck with me was that little ego. That he said garbage in, garbage out. I mean,
Okay.
I took it to like what I watched before I went to bed. What, you know,
Yeah.
everything that you put in yourself comes out.
Yeah.
It's all down to Mandino.
Yeah. That one party that he talks about going extra mile, I tell my employees that all the time. They don't listen. Hey, listen, don't worry if you've got an ungrateful master. Go an extra mile. God owes you. What about overtime, Dan? God's gonna take care of that. Don't worry about it. What? Yeah, read this book. It explains it. Don't worry about it.
Damn, Danny.
Just joking. All right. So, yeah, so anyway, all right, let's get back on track. So we're talking about being open-minded. And if that message from God doesn't open your mind to how blessed you really are, you know, if you remember a few times before this week here, week 10, I've brought up, oh yeah, you want to pass that basket? Thank you. I've brought up to you a few different times, actually many times along the way, I brought up to you how worthy you are, how blessed you are, how much you're worth, you know, and because that's important. If we don't start believing in ourselves, we can't go nowhere. You know, how am I going to make this transition from a living death that he's talked about in that message to, you know, a sober person, you know, living a good life, and if I don't believe in myself. So you are not only rare, you are worthy, and God loves you, and many other people love you. So you need to start believing in yourself. Once you start believing in yourself, you can open your mind to the fact that maybe there is this thing of God. If you're not a believer, remember all that part in that circle that you don't know. You have to admit again that God can certainly assist in what you don't know. And so you got to start learning how to believe. You know, believing is a spiritual tool, right? It really is. And everybody in this room is capable of believing. Everybody in this room is capable of using that spiritual tool. And that's what the second step is asking us to do, is come to believe, right? So there's some things I want to do, but I'll wait till next week. So we're talking about believing. Anybody got any questions or anything? Anybody want to go over something? We got 5 or 6 minutes.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I'm so sorry. What's the EI?
This is emotion over intellect. This is how we were born. Everybody is born with emotion over intellect. And as you start growing up, it should start changing. And when you're an adult, you should have an even balance of emotion and intellect. But we don't. We miss something when we.
Danny, the space in the room as opposed to my lazy boy. Go on that. Just explain that a little more.
I was just talking about the intangible, you know, what you don't see, the space in between your lazy boy and all that nice stuff that we, you know, that's kind of what we worship, though we may not literally worship it, but that's where our thoughts are, you know. Tell my, you want to go to my house, see my 72-inch TV or my 100-inch TV, you know. I don't talk to you about God, but I talk to you about what I got. I don't talk to you about how I feel, but I talk to you about what I got. And so the message has to turn, and we have to start understanding that life takes place in the intangible, in the empty space between the things you got and the walls and the floor and the ceiling. That's where life happens. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yes.
So the four things that you said is from God. Do you mean, 'cause to me, nothing blocks. I mean, God always loves me, but these things block me from having the power of God. Is that what you mean? Power of
Well,
God?
no doubt that I'm not insinuating in any way that God has disappeared. You know, God remains. But I give you a quick example. When I do, I do a relationship workshop. I think we did one in here actually, and it's online. One of the things I talk about is when a woman is dating a man, okay? So in other words, she doesn't see that man in front of her. So if the woman was here and her dad was behind her, she doesn't see that woman. She sees that woman through her dad. Right? So it's a little more complicated than that, but so the woman will see this man as her dad. Not that I'm not daddy like that, you know, but the qualities and things, she sees that, good or bad, she sees that man for who her dad was. And the same thing happens with God. God is there. God is constant and consistent, but we have things that block us from God. From seeing God. Yeah. And the book talks about it. Actually, that's what the fourth step is all about, to remove the things that block us from the sunlight of the spirit, right? So resentments and fears and, sexual conduct, harms to others, those things all block us from God. Well, so do our beliefs and our principles, right? A principle is a moral value and a belief. That's what a principle is. So our principles block us from God in certain time. We could be right in touch with God here, and a minute later we're doing something else, and it takes us to a different place. So that's what we got to watch out for.
They're like fingerprints on the glass.
That's right. That's right. Yeah. Now I got me cleaning my glasses. What fingerprints on glasses? Yeah. So, but those things. So what, like the father standing behind the girl is someone I will not forgive. That's something that's going to block me off from God. A restitution I ain't going to make. A secret I won't tell, or a dubious pleasure that I won't forego. That's a son of a bitch, that one. A dubious pleasure I won't forego. But all of those things they just block me off from God. Because I'm focused on that, and I'm not focused on the God thing. And God didn't move, and God didn't go nowhere. That's that old AA joke where the guy's running around the rooms, a newcomer, and old time says, "So what are you running around?" I'm trying to find God. God's not lost. Why don't you stand still? You might realize that he's here. God's not lost. You're the one that's lost. And that was kind of what the message was in the reading today, wasn't it? Right? That, that God is here for you. He made you so perfect, so beautiful, so worthy. You're such a miracle. Why don't you take notice of that? Why don't you appreciate that? Why don't you embrace that? All right. That's good for today. Same time next week, same time, same channel. Thank you.
Thank you, Danny.
Thanks, Danny. We'll go back to the big book next week.
You want me to go ahead and stop the recording?
Yes, please.